it's the education that goes behind the logo. People say, "Oh, I need branding. I need a logo." I'm like, first of all, the logo is a small atom in this big, ecosystem of brand identity, or your brand strategy. This is a tiny piece, but it's just, I think it's really fun to educate them and to just talk about what branding really is and what they really need. Because putting a logo together in Illustrator, it's fun and it's easy, but actually doing it for them to understand on how to use it and how it's going to live and how it's going to grow, and does it even speak to their brand? I think that's the more interesting part and the more difficult part, the brand strategy.
Welcome to Future Driven. I'm Adam Lejeune-Kopp, and on this podcast, we talk about challenges and wins in business. See the vision, drive the future. All right, I'm excited to have Edgar Garcia for Future Driven podcast number 40. Edgar, thanks so much for jumping on.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. So excited to see how we can talk about this future driven thing.
Yeah, right on. Well, I guess I found your content on Instagram, and I appreciated your authenticity and just putting content out there and being real and telling a little bit of your story, which is the beautiful thing about social media. And so I was just looking at one of your reels or content, and I was like, man, this guy could be a fun podcast guest. And so just pinged you in the DM, and here we are like a week later. So thanks for jumping in.
Yeah. Like I said, I appreciate it, man. I like wasting time. I like connecting with anyone and everyone. Just happy to be here. So let me know what you want me to answer and we'll kind of get going.
Yeah, right on. So what attracted me to your profile and you personally was just the content, the creative content that you put out there. So you're a creative director, graphic designer by background, I presume. Give us a little bit of background of your professional background.
Sure.
From university, kind of what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So really quick, starting from the beginning. So I have a degree in graphic design. I got hired early on in my career at the university and started there as a graphic designer. I was a sponge there, learned as much as I could there. Became a graphic designer, then graphic design manager. And then that was pretty much where it ended there. So I decided to make my own title there, and I became an art director there. And then from there, I've always been very curious, and I can never stand still like you should in this industry. So then I kind of started doing a lot of freelance projects, which then led me into working with agencies and other bigger clients outside of the university, which then led me to teaching. So there's kind of like a three-part monster in my career, is like the corporate 9-to-5 art director job, the running my side hustle, being a creative director, still graphic designer for an agency and different kind of clients that have nothing to do with higher education. And then the whole teaching part of what I do. So I was actually an adjunct for a community college for a while. And then that's why I started doing the reels and just putting education out there that has to do with design industry. That's in a nutshell. That's basically a three-pronged monster of who I am.
Right on. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. So you've got the production side of you, but then you got the education teaching side of you, where you're looking to educate the next generation and
exactly
guide them on decisions that they're making. So that was at California Baptist University.
That's where I'm actually an art director, but I was actually an adjunct at a different university.
Okay.
Aside from that, yeah. Okay. So I actually work in the marketing department there. In the trenches, actually doing design and doing marketing. But on the side, I do the whole creative direction for different clients. And then I used to teach at a completely different university, and I should be an adjunct for a design student for design programs there.
So, take me a little bit through the current kind of education. So I graduated university in 2002. And
okay.
I got a BFA in graphic design, University of Iowa. And we were still painting and doing like fine arts type things. There was some computer work, but I feel like the majority was not. We had also, our professor was a little bit off the rails. So
right.
He was a little bit farther on that side, but it wasn't until I actually got a job at the in-house marketing university that I actually got to I guess get my hands dirty on actual work. So tell me about like current landscape. How is it working within the universities and so forth, teaching them and blending that commercial side of the business?
Yeah. That's a good question. So I actually tried to teach at the university that I work for. I actually tried to teach there, and I got nixed. They were like, no, you don't have the time to do it. So I said, okay, joke's on you. I'm going to do this at night at a different university. Only because of that. I think I had the desire to teach the kids more of a practical experience of what I got, because I graduated in 06 from with my bachelor's in graphic design too. And my experience, it was a very theoretical thing back then, where you didn't really get the practicality that you really need in a job. So then when I started teaching at night at the community college, I would teach them, maybe 40% theoretical design thinking and the theories and principles of design. But then also is how do you navigate through this creative industry that's ever changing? And it's a nonstop learning thing, even for myself. How do you deal with clients? And I would even go into how do you deal with like the business side of design that people don't talk about, right? So it's not just about color palettes and fonts, and yeah, that's cool and all. But how do you navigate, and how do you run a meeting, and how do you actually get clients if you want to go out there and be successful in running a creative meeting? So I kind of want to touch on the things that I never learned. So it was that thing that I was a little pissed off about, like my education. Like, why didn't you guys teach me this? That took me so long to learn on my own. And that's why the reels that you probably saw is like just me being dumb and funny out there, just trying to teach people in 30-second reels, little things that I wish I would, that someone would have taught me.
Yeah, no, that's great. So are you still teaching now?
No. And the reason why is because it was kind of with the group of people that I had there. And I'm just going to be completely blunt, right? It was a waste of time when you had 20 students, and out of those 20 students, you had 2 or 3 students that really wanted to learn, right? And the other ones were there to collect financial aid checks or just to mess around or whatnot. So what I ended up doing, I took a step back from that for 2 years, and I kind of opened up my Instagram and my social media platforms to like, hey, if you guys want to learn, like hit me up. And I've had people, I've had students actually, I've met with them at coffee shops just to like mentor them, like just a one-on-one. So like, if you really want to learn and you're interested in this, hit me up on the side and we can just chat. Cause I'd rather focus on someone and teach someone that wants to learn and wants to like be there, Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
So, okay, cool. So, but all those educational experiences, culminate into what you're doing with your clients today. So when did you launch Edgar Garcia Design Company?
I think I don't think there was like a, hey, this day I'm starting. I think every designer does this. Is like little by little, like, hey, a friend needs this, a friend needs that. They need a t-shirt. You learn how to screen print. You learn how to, do invitations. I need a website. Do you know how to do it? No, but I'll figure it out, kind of thing. And it kind of evolved into the point where I'm at now, that I was, so it was probably during college that I was doing that on the side.
Yep.
But maybe, probably a little bit, maybe like 5 years ago where who was it? There was another podcast I was listening to, and they said to niche down, right? Cause I've always had this issue with niching down on my style or my type of clients. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to niche down into something that I like to do. And I started pushing out a lot of more graffiti style, raw illustrations out there, whatnot, just for fun. And I started getting people to respond to that pretty well. And that's where this company, Medium Rare, hit me up and said, hey, do you want to work on a project for us? It's kind of big. And this was in 2020. And I said, sure. So I jumped on a branding project for them. And then come to find out, it was for Damon John, the CEO of Fubu. And it was a huge like Black Entrepreneurs Day event. And that kind of just snowballed. That after that, I started working on stuff for Shaq with them, and then Rob Gronkowski with them. It's just a bunch of big brands that I started working on with them. So yeah, it was like a snowball effect the last probably 4 years. Yep.
Cool. That's great. So you have your own company, but you're also working with other companies like Medium Rare and so forth. Because it says here you're creative director for them. So kind of.
Yeah, that's a contract. Yeah. So I have that on there as a contract. But yep, I do. I work with them a lot. They're one of my biggest clients, if you want to put it. But I'm contract with them, and I still do stuff on the side, and then I still have my 9 to 5 as an art director at the university.
Oh, okay. So you're still at the university.
I'm still there, man. I'm still there. So I'm doing everything, man. I'm doing everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like you got multiple hats all the time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you're at the university. Okay. That's where I was confused, but you're at the university, but just not teaching at the university.
Exactly. I'm in marketing department as an art director at the university, 9 to 5.
Okay. So you're still interacting with students. Is there other students within the organization?
Yeah.
The marketing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because that's where, going back to University of Iowa, that's where I got my experience was I bartended, but then I also worked at the marketing department, and that's where I was like, oh, this is where I'm going to use my my degree after school.
Yeah.
Because I remember being like, I'm not going to be a painter. There's some people in here that are really good, and I'm like, that's not me, and so that makes a lot of sense. All right, cool. So, so the design company that you have, which is you personally, right? Which is your ability. And as you were talking about niching down, I was, graffiti popped in my head. Because, look at the portfolio. So let's talk a little bit about some of the projects. You mentioned the Black Entrepreneur Week, which is, I saw that was pretty cool. But the Golden State Warriors NFT project, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this was when NFTs first started back a few years ago, right? With Beeple, he was the first one that kind of blew up that space. And I've kind of I stay pretty connected in social media and the news, and I heard NFTs and Beeple and what that was a little bit, and then Medium Rare came to me and said, hey, we're working on an NFT project for Golden State Warriors. And I'm a huge basketball fan. So I said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And I had no idea what NFT was, but I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. And that night I was on YouTube, I was researching. I was like, what the heck is an NFT? Right. And that's where, that's actually the first one was for Rob Gronkowski. It wasn't even the Golden State Warriors one. It was for Rob Gronkowski. So the Golden State Warrior was the second NFT project that we did. But yeah, so when we had this one, I knew a little bit what it was about already. And we worked closely with different artists to actually create the 3D, because I'm not a 3D rendered model guy, but to help us create the NFTs. And then it was me and the team to put all the marketing promotional together to push it out. And it was let's build this plane while let's take it off. Yeah. And then it ended up doing really well. It ended up selling over $2 million or something like that, in a matter of a weekend. It was crazy. Nice. It was crazy. But those projects sound super they sound like you have a team of 30, 40, 50, but it was literally the Medium Rare team, some marketing guys, me pushing out all the promo and design stuff. And then on a weekend, they're out there selling with the Golden State Warriors and pushing out all the social media channels. So it's crazy.
Did you get into designing the actual NFTs, or were you just involved with the marketing around the collection?
So both. So the Golden State Warrior project was one of the first ones that I did with them. So they were still using a lot of their illustrators. And they actually just launched another one for the Golden State Warriors now for the playoffs. And they said, hey, why don't you just do the NFT for us? So with that one, I did a few NFTs for them, some tickets where some tickets where the buyer buys an NFT, they keep getting different ticket stubs as they keep winning or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
cool.
So I've been on both sides, on the promotional design brand part, and then actual building out some NFTs. Yeah.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
So which, we're obviously talking a lot about design and the actual creative side of things, but you mentioned earlier the business side of art and how to navigate that. And that's obviously a big part of that. Which part, you got multiple hats, so you got to do all of them, but which side do you enjoy the most, or,
that's a good question.
Which one do you lean into because it's easier or more enjoyable? Which one do you shy away from?
Yeah. Accounting is probably the hardest for me because you have to wear that accounting hat, right? When you have to actually send the invoices out, and actually at the end with tax season, put together your profit and loss statement that I learned how to do by myself. And so that's probably like my least favorite because it's part of the business. And then obviously the design process I love, but I actually really love just the business side of actually selling your idea.
Yeah.
So it's coming from an ideation and getting on a kickoff creative meeting with your client and really kind of diving into like, what do they need? It's not even what they want, because they go, oh, okay, we want a logo.
Right.
I'm like, okay, let's get in a meeting real quick. What's the problem you're trying to solve? And I think that's like, that really intrigues me, like the psychology that like, you think you need a logo, but what problem are you trying to solve? You know, okay, well, we're not getting enough clients to my website. Okay, maybe it's not a logo that you need. Maybe your social media is not performing. Maybe your website is not user friendly. And that's where I try to navigate the waters of what they actually need versus what they want. And I think that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure. And the logo, you know, especially for a guy like you, is that's the easy part, right? Like whipping up a really simple, easy logo, but it's where does it get used? How does it sync up with everything else? And, you know, that's not the broken part. It's more wrapped around that.
Exactly. And I think it's the education that goes behind the logo. You know, people say, oh, I need branding, I need a logo. I'm like, first of all, brand, the logo is a small atom in this big, like, this big, you know, ecosystem of brand identity, you know, or your brand strategy. This is a tiny piece, but it's just, I think it's really fun to educate them and to just talk about what branding really is and what they really need. Because putting a logo together in Illustrator, it's fun and it's easy, but actually doing it for them to understand on how to use it and how it's going to live and how it's going to grow, and does it even speak to their brand? I think that's the more interesting part and the more difficult part, the brand strategy. You know? Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we're working on here at Matic is, you know, the simple brand guide, brand book, you know, the basic stuff with logos, fonts, rules, and all that, that we can knock out pretty quickly. But we're starting to expand more into image treatment, nomenclature, messaging, and really selling that as part of the whole brand experience, not just the visual side. Do you also dive into that side of the business beyond the visuals?
Interesting part. So I once in a while I do that, but I rather not. And that's when, as growing my business came, I realized my strengths and weaknesses. Yep. And that was one of my weaknesses. And that's where I said, hey, you know what? Let me team up with someone that's really good at this. So there's yet another agency that I work with. Yep. That help me out with that, or they bring me like the design work, and then they take care of all the tone and voice, brand strategy, messaging, and everything like that. So I kind of realized to check my ego at the door. I'm like, I'm not that good of a copywriter. Let me hire someone that's way better at me. And it comes like that. It just as you grow too with like motion. I'm not really good at motion, but I have like my set motion designers already that I'll ping like, hey, I have a project for you, and then we'll just work together. So yeah, it's me as a face of my brand, but at the same time, it's like I have a network of people behind me that as I need them, I'm going to tap into them for sure.
Right. Yeah. So as the project expands, you know, and I assume that you want to work with projects, or you'll expand in your network if it feels right, and if the project has the right legs, and you know, it's not as a task, but otherwise you can keep it niche to you and just get your part done. Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes those small projects, I just want a logo, are kind of fun to do. Other times they're super annoying because it's a turn and burn kind of like, okay, here you go, you're done. I'll see you later. So I've been trying not to do that, not to be so transactional, but at the same time, it takes a lot of brain power to get those really big jobs. Because they're not just a 2-week job. It's a 6-month process to put together, you know?
Right. Yeah. So how, you know, this is something I've dealt with in my career, and curious to kind of hear your thoughts, but over the last, you know, let's say 20 years, right?
Yep.
As things like Upwork and 99 Designs and all these kind of churn and burn approaches, if you will, to getting things done, how do you differentiate yourself in the sea of you know, creative solutions that are out there?
Yeah, I think relationship, that's my biggest thing. Relationship and just being reliable and being there and creating a relationship with my clients. That's all it is. Because if someone wants hey, I just need a logo for $100, I usually tell, and I get those DMs all the time.
Yeah.
I tell them like, hey, there's Fiverr. You can go to Fiverr and just get it done there, So it helps me send people somewhere. But for those people that I really want to, like, hey, here's my cell phone number. Call me whenever you need something. Or let's meet up in person for lunch and talk about this. Or, hey, let's get on a Zoom call. Let's get on a Zoom call and actually dive into your process. I think that's the thing, where being reliable and then just creating that relationship so they know that I really understand their problem, rather than just like, hey, I'm putting together a logo for you and here you go, and I'll never talk to you again. I think that's the biggest thing. And then usually my projects start with like, hey, I need again, that logo. So I need that. And then it turns into like, I've been working with them for the last 5 years, where they need, social media strategy. They need to update their website. They need some motion graphics. They need some photography, video. So it just kind of grows because they know that I'm reliable and I'll make sure it gets done the right way. That it kind of just keeps growing,
But it keeps going back to that logo is the hook.
It keeps going back to like and let's get, let's get rid of like the logo, but it's just that initial project. And if you show up and you give it 100% and you show who you really are, and you're just there to help someone, that's the big thing. Is just be there to help someone in their time of need, if you want to put it that way. Then it just grows. It just grows into a relationship, and they're going to come back to you.
Yeah. And also, the way another answer to that is you kind of get what you pay for, right? Like I can probably fix my own toilet if I wanted to figure it out, or I could find somebody who I've never met to do it, or I could call my consistent guy to know that thing's going to work all the time.
Absolutely.
And so there's, we're in a commodity business where, anybody can do it, quote unquote, but you get what you pay for. You get the relationship, which is what you're talking about. Yeah. And then as it grows, you've got a consistent, someone who's thinking about your business throughout.
And I'm like that for my other stuff too. Like you said, anything that has to do with like my house or when I bought and sold my house, it's the same guy. I don't trust no one else. When I have to refinance, it's the same guy. My mechanic is the same guy because I trust them,
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Great, man. So, this is the Future Driven podcast. So I want to know a little bit more about what you see in the future. Maybe let's talk a little bit about, what you see happening in the design space as things become even easier. How long is it going to be until you can just talk into your phone and the logo will spit out because you described it. And then we want to talk a little bit about you, but what do you see happening in the design space that over the next, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, I think in this industry, the tiring part, but exciting part is that it's an ever evolving industry. So if you stop learning, you become a dinosaur within a month or whatnot, So you always have to be a sponge and learn everything. This is probably cliche to say, but Web 3.0, the whole blockchain, the whole NFT space is coming. So if people don't know what that is, Google it, look it up, because that's the new web and that's where it's coming. And for designers, it's really good because it provides us with opportunity to be like musicians and collect our royalties. We can create whatever we want. We can throw it up on the blockchain and we can sell it like a fine piece of art nowadays. Right. You could do that with a company like I did. You could do that by yourself. Because I'm even doing my own NFT projects. I'm trying to do my own over here. But I think that is huge. The whole blockchain, the whole metaverse, where people are actually building spaces. And it's weird to think about, right? Building spaces in a universe that's digital, so maybe there's like a mall out there. And I was talking to my wife, I'm like, is there even going to be like retail shops in 20 years, or is everything going to be like a Sim City where you're just walking around, so then you have opportunities there to like design the buildings, design advertisement within the Web 3.0, right? Within that metaverse. That's wild. That's crazy to hear. So I think that is for sure that what everyone's talking about is that metaverse. Number two, like you said, the whole AI and the whole Canva, Adobe just released their version of Canva, Adobe Express. Yep. It used to be Spark, it's Adobe Express. And I think a few years ago, I think I was maybe a little younger and more immature, and it pissed me off, right? Like, oh man, Canva's is terrible, and you know, it's going to take our businesses. But instead of thinking it that way, I kind of flipped my mentality to like, how can I leverage this for me now?
Right.
You know, so then I've been trying to learn as much as I can when it comes to that, because we can leverage that for certain types of projects, or even educating our clients like, hey, you can use this now. Let me help you set this up for you. And now you can use this. And then you don't have to come to me for a little flyer because you can do this, but let me educate you on how to use this. Or we can do that for you too. You know, so it's just tools that are out there, I think, that if we know how to wrangle them and use them to our ability, I think it's going to make our life easier, because design thinking, it's still a creative thing that it's never going to go away. And I don't even think a machine can take over creativity as well as the human being can, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And even in the metaverse and Web 3.0, we're going to need humans to create the world that we're going to be operating in.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that because of the digital real estate is infinite, you know, you're still going to have real life real estate. You know, it's just because you're going to have a lot of people, especially in our lifetime, that are just not interested in going there. And so you're going to have people kind of going, you know, operating there, but then you're going to have people operating in this digital world that people don't even know or see. That is so, you know, it's so much more, it's so much bigger. And, you know, there obviously, if you saw, you know, what went down with VCon and recently and everything that's happening there, there's just so much, like, we're at the very beginning of it. Even though it feels like it's been around for a couple of years, there's just so much to come.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, I think as designers, I think this is really exciting because, again, this is probably cliche to say, but we have a huge voice and a huge like seat at the table nowadays. If we take that opportunity, you know, so I always tell like the young guys that I mentor or talk to, I'm like, do not be scared to voice your opinions. And when you get that chance to be part of that conversation, take it, because I think as designers and creatives, we tend to be very shy and introverted and won't speak up and don't know our value. But as soon as we understand our value, it's a game changer. It's a game changer because we are as important or more important than a lot of those positions out there making decisions in these big projects.
Yeah. Well, and social media gave creators a platform, right? So artists, musicians, you name it, right? And so now Web 3.0 and NFTs and everything is going to give that even more of a platform.
Exactly.
Which is awesome, right? Like but it doesn't all come back down to community. Like it comes down to people actually giving a shit what you're talking about or making.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you say that because, you know, people always ask me, oh, what's the most if I want to be a designer, like what's the best thing for me to learn to be successful? And I said, build a community around you, build a network of people, because it's who you know now. It's always been like that, but it's who you know. Like it's so relevant now. Build a strong community behind you that's going to support you in what you're doing. You know,
and never be I guess shy to reach out to someone like what I just did to you, right? Like, you know, outside of, there was zero connection. And then now here we are having a great conversation, similar backgrounds, similar challenges. It all works out well. You're in California. I'm in Washington.
Nice.
This is great.
And this is and I'll just pose this question for whoever listens to this or you, and maybe you can answer this, because this is something recently that I've been noticing and I want to figure out is, why is this generation or this time that we are now, why are people so reluctant to reach out to people just like you did, you know, through DMs? It sounds sneaky. I mean, is it disgusting? Is it gross? I mean, what is it that people are so scared to reach out to people about, you know, because I do that all the time. There's designers, there's like top level designers that hey, I love your work. You inspire me. Like, I just want to say what's up, and they'll reach out back to me, you know? So I'm not sure if there's people are scared of rejection a lot nowadays or what it is. But I always tell people, I'm like, just go and just email someone or DM them and say hi.
I think that's a lot. That's it. A lot, especially when people have, if they're, quote unquote, bigger personalities or
Right.
have following,
Right.
they don't feel like that they're going to they're going to get a response. But
Right.
you're right. And a lot of times I'm sure there's people you reach out to that don't respond. And,
Right.
and there could be many equations to that. Maybe they just aren't active, or that's just something that they're just not into or whatever. But like, that doesn't mean that, so it's like this self-deprecation thing that starts to happen. Like, why didn't they respond to me? Oh my God. Like it just, versus just throwing it out there, which I'm a big fan of, just having, no expectations of others and just giving it back to, like what you're saying, giving it back to the community, telling people you like their stuff, because people want to hear that stuff. And, it might feel like they have a bigger, vision because of their personality online, but you just never know, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's happened to me before where people have sent me a message. They're like, I'm surprised you responded. I'm like, why wouldn't I respond? Oh, it's because you worked with some big clients. I'm like, you have no idea. Like it's not that glamorous, it's cool that I'm actually flattered that we're talking. That's really cool. And I've made a lot of friends like that on Instagram. Yeah.
That's awesome. So what about you, and where do you want your career company to go? Kind of what's your hope and your vision for, Edgar Garcia Design Co?
Yeah. You know what? Now, again, I'll be honest and authentic. I have no idea. And I think that's like a lot of people that I've asked that are even higher than me. And I asked them, they're like, I have no idea. I heard this funny thing that says designers never retire. We just die, and I think that's where, I definitely like where COVID was a terrible thing, but at the same time, it showed a lot of companies that, hey, and it showed a lot of people that you can do this remote, Sure. So I've been doing the school thing 9 to 5 remote, which is really good. And it's a stable thing for my kids, right? Which I'm like, okay, cool. 9 to 5 remote, cool. And then just growing my side work as much as I can. And I tell myself, so one day I can probably just focus on that. But in reality, I'm like, am I really going to like leave a safety net that I have there? In reality, maybe not. Maybe I'm not sure. This has to be really big. So I don't know. I think it's just working with clients that I want to work with. I think that's where I want to be at, is working with, the Golden State Warriors was really cool because I'm a big basketball fan. I still want to work for the Lakers. That's cool. I'm a Laker fan. Nice. But just in that entertainment industry is where I kind of want to niche myself a little bit. But yeah, I think just growing this as much as I can until I have to make a decision as to like, hey, should I just go this route or go this route? At the same time, sometimes I don't want to go 100% freelance, because then I see the horror stories of like, you always have to be on and always have to hustle, and sometimes I don't, sometimes I just want to relax on the weekends too with my kids. So it's kind of like right now I think just growing that side of the business that I have. And then just continue to educate people. I think that's where maybe in the long run, where I want to be, is go back into heavy like education with this, and seeing how I can just help this upcoming generation. Because I feel a little responsible, like, all right, I'm getting a little older. There's 18, 19-year-olds getting out of college, and I'm not liking a lot of the stuff that they're doing. So instead of bitching about it, like, how do I fix it? How can I help them?
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, the world works. So because of all the education we're talking about, one of my clients is based out of Mexico. They're a manufacturer. We're working with a college in Chicago, and then we're the third prong of the relationship as an agency. And so we're helping students bring this commercial side of the education, and they're actually designing products for this manufacturer that are getting selected by US buyers, and they're going to be on the shelves.
That's awesome.
And we're doing this, we're giving them direction, we're giving them scopes of work, we're giving them feedback, and we're creating this creative loop. They're getting stronger, and then they're getting real life experience of, hey, we don't like this. Let's take this one, design it with this one. And two students are like, well, that's my work. And it's like, well, now the two of you guys are going to collaborate, or we're going to actually give it to this person, and they're going to finish it. And they're like, well, I mean, what? And it's like, but that's the way it works.
The way it works. Exactly.
And I've got a fairly younger team. 20s and early 30s. And I always tell them about my stories. My very first agency job, I had a pretty cutthroat creative director.
Yeah.
And I was, we were art directors, I think straight away. And there's like 20 of us.
Yeah.
We would do big projects. We worked on like Subway and Jimmy John's. We were kind of in that fast casual restaurant.
Okay.
World. And we used to put together all these campaigns, and we would all, have like a due date, whatever, like Thursday at 2 or whatever.
Right.
We'd all print them out, and everything was printed at that time.
Yep.
And we would put it on the wall, and the creative director would come in, and he didn't know, he obviously had his like favorites of the guys that were like awesome and rock stars. And I was 21 at the time, and he would come in and he would just like literally like rip things up, add this, take this and say, okay, Brad, who was like the senior guy, I want you to finish that. And I'm like, well, hey, that was part of mine. It's like, you go in the back and start cutting up boards and, whatever. But but that was just like the cutthroat mentality that it was okay. They had a good idea. Everybody in the room knew it was yours because we all kind of knew, but he just cared about the end result,
right?
Which was, we got to get out in front of this client and present the best work possible.
Yeah.
And that really, that 2 years that I spent there gave me like such a thick skin for the business side of things, because I just lost all emotion for the design. Even my work, I was like, you know what? I just spent 5 hours on it. Now I hate it. And I'm going to go do something else, And that's the biggest thing that I guess I'm trying to educate my team and then these college students that don't get too emotional about the work.
Exactly.
Because you gotta keep putting it out there, and it keeps getting better and better and better.
Exactly. Again, one of the things I've heard a long time ago, I forgot who said this, but your work doesn't define you, who you are as a person. And that's what I tell my guys too. I manage a couple guys, and I'm like, even if what you did is not the best thing, like, you're still a cool person, like, you got to disconnect yourself from your work. And I know you put a lot of work in this, but it doesn't define who you are as a person, and that's the biggest thing that I try to teach. Even when I was teaching at the university, that's what I would tell them. I'm like, okay, we're going to critique this stuff, but when we're a little rough on this, don't take it personal, because it doesn't define you, who you are as a person at the end of the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Edgar, hey man, I really appreciate you coming on and telling a little bit about your story. It's great to be connected, and you for sure are future driven, my friend. So thanks so much.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing this out there, and hopefully it blows up, and hopefully we meet again in the metaverse, right? The Web 3.0. We go.
I'm gonna come to sunny California before we meet.
We got some 8-bit coffee there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ed.
Man, I appreciate you.
Yep.